I'm going to try and keep my camera as still as possible here, putting on my gloves because it is rather chilly. It's below freezing. We had a little bit of snow falling, and I am at an iconic spot. Over there is the fortress of Ivangorod, and here is Herman Castle on the Narva side of the river Narva. So this is the border that separates the Empire of Moscow, Russia over there, with the European Union. Actually, you can see the flags if I maybe can't make them out right from here, but you have a European Union flag, an Estonian flag, and a NATO flag. And you can probably see the Estonian flag just over there, waving in the breeze. On the Estonian side of the border, obviously I am on the Estonian side of the border. I have no plans to swim across or to walk across, because actually this border is open. We have the border here, and you can't drive across at the moment. It's actually closed for renovations. At least that's what I read online. It said renovations from the Russian side. That actually surprised me a little bit. And it's been closed for around a year roughly, and it will be closed for, it looks like, another year. So I'm not sure what kind of renovations they're doing, but we see some, I think they're called dragon's teeth, to stop any Russian tanks coming across to the Estonian side. They seem to be on the Estonian side. The Russian side doesn't have any dragon's teeth there, so they're not worried about a NATO attack, in inverted commas. So in today's live stream, I want to discuss a little bit about where I am, what I'm doing here, and whether you should come to a place like this. I've been getting many questions in the last few live streams since I've been here in Estonia, in the Baltic States, about geopolitical risk, whether should be worried about the country over here invading the country on this side of the river Narva. And I actually addressed that in a live stream I did a couple of minutes ago on my geopolitics channel, my second channel. So if you go down below to the description of the video, you can go watch that and listen to me discuss it. It's a pretty short video, about 10 minutes. The cliff notes, or the, too long, didn't read. So the TLDR version is that in the short term, so short term being, up to 2 years, the geopolitical risk is actually very low. You may have noticed that Russia's forces are bogged down in Ukraine, and that's not likely to change, although there is a small risk that would happen. But, medium to long term, obviously there's more of a geopolitical risk of further Russian aggression against parts of its former empire. Estonia was in the Soviet Union, so this was not a border 40 years ago. It's actually in part of the same country, this bridge across. So if you're new to this channel, by the way, my name is Connor Klein. And when I'm not discussing geopolitics, I actually have a background in international relations. I help high-level men with living their dream lifestyle in a region of Europe that I refer to as New Europe. So this side of the river is New Europe. Over there, that is Eastern Europe, for sure. It's one of my bugbears when people call, Czechia or Poland Eastern Europe. And that really goes back to the Cold War, actually, because we're most likely in the beginnings of a new Cold War, and this is actually the new, Iron Curtain, you could say. On that side of the Iron Curtain, you have obviously Russia. On this side, you have New Europe, the free world, as it was referred to back then. But of course, the old Iron Curtain was probably about 1,000 kilometers for what it would have been actually just north as well, but it would have been where you had the Berlin Wall between East and West Germany, and obviously West and East Berlin, and then obviously the border with East and West Germany at the time. So this region is what I help my clients with. We've been going to the Baltics quite a lot in the last, say, year or so. Also help my clients with countries like Poland, Moldova, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. May also go to Czechia with clients as well. And probably best known for giving lots of dating advice on how to date the beautiful women of this region. I also help my clients with relocations, so getting visas and buying property and stuff like that, and how to build up a high-level social network, because obviously you want to have cool guy friends as well. So that's what I'm most known for, known as the insider for this region. So if you're interested, down below there are many playlists that will help you with relocation to this region. And I also help my clients with an in-person experience. I used to call it the Czar experience, but unfortunately, because of the guy leading this country over there, that isn't normally how I brand it nowadays. New Europe experience, we will not be going over there. You can live it right here on this side of the river Narva, and I have my consultant link down below. And if you are actually going to go to Ukraine, in spite of the Russo-Ukrainian war, in spite of the aggression from this country, then I have a guidebook that will help you with staying as safe as possible. Of course, normal caveat that it is a country at war, the biggest war in Europe since World War II, and it has a lot of great tips for hospitality as well, all the advice how to stay safe as possible. Also have a similar guidebook for Moldova, magical Moldova, another former Soviet republic that at the moment definitely doesn't want to be part of this country over there. They are on the path to EU accession. They are a kind of country, so I have a great guidebook for that, all the hospitality for Chisinau, the capital, and the best vineyards because it has some of the best wine in the region. So with all that said, let's get into the live stream today. I'll give a short presentation about my experience here in Narva, in Estonia in general, and whether you should come to this. But I think it's worth a day trip, and that's straight off the bat, because this is really, with the current geopolitical situation, an iconic part of the continent of Europe. We have regrettably, a new Cold War forming, and presumably an Iron Curtain. At the beginning of the Cold War, you could cross the borders. Obviously, you couldn't just cross them freely, as you have to go through border crossings. But it wasn't as hard to go from east to west when we had Eastern Europe in inverted commas, and I feel we're kind of in that period at the moment. So it is definitely quite a picturesque place. You got this old fortress, Ivangorod Crepist, and then you have Herman Castle on this side. Narva actually used to be really historic, but unfortunately during the Second World War it was pretty much destroyed, and then it was resettled, colonized. The migrants come, it depends on how you want to frame things, and it was repopulated from people from other parts of what became, well, it had already been established the Soviet Union. So nowadays Narva is probably the most Russian-speaking part of the European Union. I don't know if there's anywhere that's as high Russian-speaking that's actually in the EU. It's in everyday life, the main language used here is Russian. You can see Estonian everywhere. Obviously, Estonian is the official language of Estonia, and it is an unusual city in that sense that it is predominantly Russian-speaking, and you could speak in Russian if you wanted to. People also speak English here. I used mainly Russians as actually speak Russian, and it is therefore quite different to obviously the majority of Estonia. It is a small town. It's about population is around 50,000. There are some cafes. There's some obviously historical buildings, as you can see, and you have the view of the fortress on the other side, and you have many new buildings. They're actually quite nice. I have to say, some of the new stuff. You have a college here that's part of the University of Tartu, and a few cafes, but do bear in mind that it's probably not a place that you want to necessarily move to full time unless you really like the quiet life on the border with the new Cold War. Not really sure who would want that, but as a place to come and see on a day trip, I think it's actually pretty interesting. And then you have this historical point where you can look across to Russia. So that's what I will say about it. That I also spent one evening up at the Seaside. It's further up the river, I guess. Is it this direction? Yeah. Just asking my friend. Yeah. So if you go up this, right, behind the camera, then you're going to come to the coast. You're going to have the Gulf of Finland, and stay there one night at a hotel or resort. Really nice actually up there. The beach is pretty cool looking. So I think in the summertime, when we don't have this inclement weather, that obviously being in the Nordics as we are here, or in Eastern Europe over there, as I refer to it now, because I think that's a better definition geopolitically for sure. Actually, also geographically. I'm actually going to have a video on that, I think, pretty soon about the weather, and going to show a map. Actually, if you look geographically speaking, we're almost we're more in the center of the continent than anything else. So I think summertime, that can be really interesting. So I may come back in a few months when things are a lot warmer. So that is my first impressions of Narva after a couple of days here, that it is quite a peaceful spot to spend a day or two in, enjoy. I actually had some a fish I'd never had before. It's called lamprey in, yeah, I don't remember what it is in Estonian. In Russian it's minoga, and it looks pretty ugly and pretty disgusting when you see the photos of it, but it was pretty tasty. I hadn't had that before. That's something that apparently it was 3 different dishes on the menu in the restaurant I went yesterday. So otherwise, it's quite a peaceful, a lot of modern stuff that has been built recently on this side. Looking across, obviously I'm not going to cross the border and go into Russia, but I don't know how well you can see these buildings on the Russian side from my camera here, but it really looks like Eastern Europe, putting it that way. It looks very Soviet in appearance, at least what I can see from here. It's quite a small town. I think the population about 10,000 on the other side of the border. And yeah, I don't see any nice buildings, at least from here. It looks pretty, well, there's one house over there that's been repainted in red. So let's give it its due. There's one house that looks kind of modern. So that is pretty indicative of the quality of life on both sides of this river, because the GDP per capita, just taking GDP per capita, I'm saying it's a perfect metric for judging quality of life, but on that side of the border it's about half of this side of the border, and that's taking into account, obviously Russia is a huge country, it's the biggest country geographically speaking in the world, and but most of the wealth of the country is more or less concentrated in just a few regions. Well, it's the same in a lot of places. The capital, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and I think there's one or two other regions that are relatively well off, and then the rest of the country is really, really, really poor. So this would look more like someone I saw wrote about Bolden bankrupt in the comments. I will come to the comments after I give this a little presentation. I think that side of the river definitely would fit in his videos a lot more than this side nowadays. That said, of course, a lot of the buildings were built when it was part of the Soviet Union, so you do have a lot of that more dreary, grey-looking Soviet architecture also on this side. But you do have a lot of new buildings that are quite nice, especially the town hall. At night, it's really beautiful actually down at the town hall. So that's pretty indicative. You can see another nice building they built there. There was actually a restaurant and a gym just overlooking this fortress that we went into a few minutes ago just to check out, and quite nice, quite modern. You can see a particularly nice, good quality of life here relative to what I imagine it being on the other side. Of course, I haven't been there to verify, but the buildings don't really inspire me looking at the border here. Oh, you've been there. My friend is with me, has been there. Well, when were you there though?
Yeah, it was a few years back, but
yeah,
it's really bad.
It's really
over
bad.
there is really bad.
Okay, over there is really bad. So, but it was a good. It was what, 15 years ago when you were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 15 years ago. So also Narva didn't look like today. I mean, you've probably seen big developments. So I don't know if there's much more I can say about Narva other than it's really an interesting spot to come down to, and you get to look over to the other side. You can see some people walking across there. You can schlep your suitcase across, I guess, if you have a Russian visa, or if you have visa free to Russia for some reason. So the Baltics in general, I've really been enjoying my time here, and yeah, it's not as, I'm sure the cost of living is lower there, but the quality of life is not going to be the same as being on this side of the border in terms of infrastructure and obviously freedom. It depends how interested you are in freedom. Maybe if you agree with what the government on that side of the border, maybe you're going to happy there for now, but I wouldn't want to be leading protests against anything that the government does in future. Whilst obviously on this side, whilst we don't have perfect freedom of speech, it obviously is a lot more strong in terms of it being possible to, to disagree with the government openly and protest what goes on, if that's what interests you. But most of the guys who watch the channel are interested in living their best life, and on this side of the border it is really, really interesting for me. And it's kind of one of the things, I guess, one of the silver linings about the Russo-Ukrainian war, because obviously I don't spend as much time in Ukraine as I did before. If you're new to this channel, I was filming a lot in Ukraine, and actually I was filming in Belarus as well, 2018, 2019, and then with the COVID and the lockdowns and everything, I actually stayed in Ukraine for over 2 years without leaving. Actually left on the 25th of February 2022. I had to evacuate from Ukraine with obviously the Russian invasion. It was day 2. And I guess that one of the silver linings is that I've actually come and checked out a lot of other countries in the region, including the 3 Baltic states. I've actually spent a good amount of time in the last year in Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. I have to say that, unlike when I went there maybe 10 years ago, it's changed a lot. Obviously, it's improved a lot economically in the last decade. And also, I see a lot less tourism, a lot less, I guess because the prices went up. It is cheaper than being, say, in Scandinavia. It's like 15, 20, 25% cheaper, depending on where you are, in a comparable city. So if you're going to be in, say, Tallinn, which has a population of around 500,000, you compare it to somewhere like Gothenburg in Sweden, then it's probably 15, 20, this kind of ballpark figure cheaper in Tallinn. So you can live a comparable lifestyle in Estonia for a cheaper price, so you get better value for money. But so it's not a super cheap. It's not a passport bro destination where it's going to be 25% of the cost. I mean, Ukraine is probably half the price of Estonia, but obviously you have to deal with this country firing rockets and drones at you on a daily basis, more or less. And on top of that, I think it's also interesting with respect to the languages, because here in Estonia, we have Estonian, Latvia also is Latvian, and Lithuania has Lithuanian. But the level of English is really high in Estonia, in Latvia and Lithuania. So if you come and you haven't learned the local languages, as nearly every guy who watches this channel, then you can get away with speaking English a lot more here than you can in other parts of the region, say like Ukraine, Moldova. You probably want to speak the local languages, and definitely over on that side of the border, you're almost certainly going to need to speak the local language there. So that is a big plus. And I found it, because it isn't overrun, because you have this barrier to entry, because it's not super cheap on this side of the border, that you don't have the kind of passport bros, I guess, coming, or kind of the sex tourists, all that kind of stuff that used to be the case maybe 10, 20 years ago. And the reaction from the locals is actually pretty good, pretty friendly. There aren't so many guys who of a certain caliber who come and move and hang out. There are some. There's a big IT sector in Estonia, for example. So if you look at its economic trajectory, it has been improving quite well. It is a place that is on the up, a bit like Poland as well. And if you're looking for a place to get in earlier, you're not super early, obviously. That would have been 10, 20 years ago. Actually, my friend, he bought real estate here. He came in the 90s from Scandinavia to the Baltics, and that was the time to get in early, but that was obviously a lot earlier. And definitely, if you're a single guy, this country, this side of the river, has the most models per capita in the world as a country. And so Baltic beauty is pretty phenomenal, I have to say. Girls are tall, long legs, very elegant, and you could even say that you don't have the wokeism, the crazy radical feminism kind of stuff, and a bit of the madness that you see, say, in the UK, the US, and some parts of Western Europe. It's not even, I would say, all of Western Europe, but some parts of Western Europe, you just don't have that in the Baltic states. So it's a pretty good mixture. I think it's a very attractive proposition to hang out on this side of the border in this region, especially if you are a single guy in particular. I think this is one of the best spots in Europe, I have to say, and country on the way up. Quality of life is high, and it's pretty phenomenal. The downsides, of course, are if you don't like this kind of weather. If you want to be in the sunshine all year, don't come to the Baltics in the winter, because it's like here local time is now 2:30. So I started this live stream probably about 15, 20 minutes ago, and we had snow. It just stopped before I started filming, I think. And it is pretty damn cold. And yesterday was a lot colder. Yesterday it was probably about 6-7 degrees colder with a wind chill. And as you can see, there isn't much sunshine. It's pretty dark the sun is gonna go down in probably about 90 minutes, and yeah, the last few months I haven't seen very much sunshine. I've seen a few hours of it. I think probably less than 24 hours in the last few months of sunshine. So if you're looking for sun all year round in a warm climate, don't come to this part of Europe in winter. Summer, it's obviously a different story. Sun goes down very late, and you have quite a nice climate. It's not super hot. It's not going to be like the Emirates in the summertime where it's over 40 degrees and uncomfortable. It'll be pretty pleasant. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest downside. And in general, I don't mind the change of the seasons and the cold weather. This is pushing it, to be frank, because probably the camera is probably not even quite steady because I'm not using a stabilizer. I don't have a gimbal for my phone. Yeah, this is kind of pushing my limits as an Irishman. It doesn't rain as much, at least, but it still rains a good bit in the winter. So I think that's one of the big minuses. And then the other, I guess you could say, minus is the geopolitical risk. Obviously, I've been living in Ukraine, and we had the extended invasion already in 2014. We had Russia invade, and obviously that is pretty horrific, and yeah, not great to think about what could have happened. So I guess that's probably the other negative, is the geopolitical risk. That said, it's very, very safe otherwise. You don't have high petty crime or anything like that on this side of the border. That side of the border, I think the homicide rate is pretty similar to the US, so very high by European standards. In the Baltic States, it's actually a little bit higher than the rest of Europe, but it's not. I think it's about a half of what it is in the US. And Russia, it's probably a third or quarter. So this side, also pretty safe. I don't know, are there any other negatives of being in the Baltics? I don't know, it's pretty hard to pick them out. Just about everything is pretty good. I think
it was cheaper before,
yeah.
Like you say. Now it's not so big difference anymore.
Yeah,
So it's becoming more and more similar to the Nordic countries.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like to emphasize, and why I say that this is New Europe and not Eastern Europe anymore. I mean, obviously, 40 years ago, this was also Eastern Europe, it was part of the Soviet Union. I just think that if you're in Estonia, and it's the Nordics. It feels Nordic to me, and the level of infrastructure is catching up with the rest of the Nordics, like Finland, Sweden, Denmark. Obviously, the immigration has been different. In places like Finland or Sweden, they've had very generous asylum policies, so you have people come from all over the world. It's more multi-culti, global kind of community, and maybe that's something that suits you more than here, which hasn't had that so much. I'm not saying there are no people who are from Asia or Africa or Latin America. There are, of course, some, but it's not that much. And yeah, because of it being part of the Soviet Union, and this city in particular, it was basically, you could use terms like colonized or ethnic cleansed, or you could just say that people migrated from other parts of the Soviet Union. They were more or less sent here. And yeah, that's basically it's been more regional, we'll say, migration patterns in Estonia compared to, say, being in Finland or Sweden, which is obviously a lot more global. So that has brought positives and negatives. I think it's always, as I say on this channel and to my clients, it's like picking the countries that are best fit for you. No Makapolis, obviously, it go where you're treated best. So yeah, maybe somewhere like Stockholm or Helsinki is a better fit for you. Maybe you want that more multi-culti aspect in the Nordics, and maybe you prefer more regional setup or lifestyle, which is definitely going to be more in this part of the Nordics in Estonia. So that's what I'll say about that. I think I've said everything I want to say. Maybe I'll look at your questions, because it is pretty cold and I don't intend to stand here for as long as I normally do on my live streams. This will be a short one. So I'll look at your comments and questions. I know I'm having this very early in the US time zones, but there wasn't much I could do about that. Otherwise it would be dark already and it's pretty cold. So someone says, Privet there. Super cold, says Nathan, no way coming there till summer and the sun is back. I can appreciate you thinking like that. I guess the good thing is, if I guess nearly everybody watching this is going to be a single guy. So if you're coming now, well, you don't have any other tourists you have very few tourists from Western. You have some Finnish tourists who come for the weekend, that's true. But in general, you don't have so many tourists. And yeah, still the nightlife is pretty good, I have to say, in Tallinn, especially cocktail bars and some clubbing. I think Riga is a bit better for clubbing. Damien says, Bolan Bankroyd made a new video from Moldova. He said Chisinau has improved, but outside Chisinau it has not changed much, especially in the villages he visited. Yeah, that seems pretty accurate. In spite of my my videos reacting to Ben Rich, I agree with him on that. Chisinau for the win. I don't know when I'll be back there, maybe in a month or so, but I've been saying that for a couple months. Someone asked me there, what about dating in Narva compared to Tallinn? It's pretty small. It's a town of 50,000 people. So yeah, I don't really know why someone would come here necessarily to date women. You could just be in Tallinn, which is a city that's 10 times bigger and with a lot more things to do. So, and even if you wanted to meet Russian speakers, there are more Russian speakers in Tallinn than the population of Narva. So just go to Lasnamäe.
Yeah, it's like 50-50 in Tallinn. So if it's 500,000, it's 250,000 ethnic Russians and 250,000 ethnic Estonians.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably over 200,000.
But in Narva, it's 95% ethnic Russians.
Yeah. So here, it's like 95% Russian speaking is their first language. But basically, if you wanted to meet Russian speaking girls, you'd meet 5 times as many in Tallinn. So I don't know why you'd want to come here and hang out. There isn't that much to do, to be frank. So yeah, that's my reaction to that. Yeah, so I know this is early in the States, so I guess most guys are going to watch this on the replay. So drop me a comment down below what you think. Would you want to come and see this iconic spot? Maybe you don't want to see it with these temperatures. I have to say I'm kind of already trembling a little bit from the cold. At least it's not as cold as yesterday, because I think I already mentioned it was like 6, 7 degrees colder, and there was a lot stronger wind, so I couldn't film anything. It was kind of a bit of a waste of a day. I sat in a cafe. So just to remind you, if you've come to the live stream at this point, this is Narva. That is the river Narva behind me. You have Herman Castle, which is this castle here, which is on the Estonian side, on the European Union side, on the NATO side of the border. And over there we have Ivangorod and its fortress. And this is the bridge between them. It's not a bridge of friendship. Let's be very clear about that. And yeah, you can see the dragon's teeth. Maybe you can see them. I'm not sure if they come out there to stop vehicles like tanks rolling across the bridge. And they have been put there by the Estonian side, it looks like. So I'm at this iconic spot. And one perspective is that we're in the beginning of a new Cold War, and hence the apt temperatures as I'm freezing my rear off here, looking at the new Iron Curtain, I guess, metaphorically speaking. It's kind of an icy curtain between this side, Eastern Europe, and over here, New Europe, and Western civilization. This is the West. A lot of people, especially Americans, they always talk about the West just being the United States or North America, but the collective West is obviously the European Union, UK, and North America. Well, the US and Canada. I'm not sure if we include Mexico in that or not. And so this is the West, and over there you have Eastern Europe. So not sure I really want to keep going with this live stream much longer. So if you are watching it on replay, drop your comments down below whether you want to come in winter to a place like this and hang out, or you're going to wait till it gets warmer. I will be organizing a lot of things in the summer in the Baltic States, so a lot of good stuff to come. And if you are interested in my in-person experience, which normally doesn't involve standing out in the cold in a place like this, we'll be probably hanging out at the nicest shisha lounge in Tallinn with a bevy of hotties, basically, the local lovelies. Then down below is my application form for my in-person experience. I have branded it as the Zara experience since 2018. However, because of the guy leading this country over here, I don't use the Tsar branding so much anymore. It's kind of more a new Europe experience, but you can be, you know, I don't know, I was looking for a replacement name, but Karol or Kral, or I think they have another word, Kniezin, is that the other word for the languages on this side of the border for like king, but it doesn't have the same ring to it as our experience, does it? So down below is the application form, and it could be you with me inside at the best cocktail bars, clubs, at other high level, going to some high level events in Tallinn or in Riga or in maybe also in Lithuania, in Kaunas or in Vilnius. That's where I brought my clients in the last year to all 4 of those cities. And we'll be doing lots of great stuff during the summer. You have a lot of amazing places in the Baltic States. They're all 3 of them are quite distinct, I would say, nowadays. I wouldn't really put them all together as much as I would have 20 years ago. We have a place called Perno that's kind of cool. That's going to be great in the summer. Also, I'm thinking of going to another city in Latvia pretty soon. And obviously you have Klaipėda and the Koronian Spit there in Lithuania. Also bring my clients to Warsaw in Poland. I am considering bringing my clients also to Gdansk, the second city, especially when the weather gets better. And potentially I'll also bring clients to Prague in Czechia, although I haven't done that so far. I've been bringing lots of clients to Moldova. As someone mentioned, Ben Rich being back there. First time in many years, probably half a decade. And still, it's a bit of a different experience in Ukraine. I do help most of my clients who have already got significant others who are Ukrainian with things like real estate and visas for Ukraine. But I did have a client come in person with me actually in the summer of 2024. So a bit different experience in Ukraine. We obviously have the risk of Russian rocket attacks, drone attacks, and there is a curfew at midnight that affects most of the country, except for one region I went to called Zakarpatskaya Oblast. The main city there is Ujhorod, and it is obviously different, but still, if you want to come and visit Ukraine, support Ukraine in some way during this obviously great time of need, or time of great need, then definitely I encourage that. And if you want to do it with my help, then either write me an email at connorklein@czarexperience.com, or you can obviously fill out the application form via the link in the description to this video. So those are the options. And Kazakhstan, I almost forgot Kazakhstan. And all those friendly Kazakhstan. It's also pretty cold over in Almaty. You can actually go skiing within 40 minutes of Almaty, the city. So I will be going back there in 2025 with clients to both Almaty and Astana. So looking forward to do that. So if you're interested, again, links down below in the description to this video. Let me look at final comments because I am really cold right now and my hand is trembling. Probably you can see that as you watch it. So no one else has added any questions. Someone's asking me about love the sunnies. I don't really know what you want to say with that. And yeah, I'm an Irish citizen and a British citizen, both countries. I normally describe myself as European in general. And yeah, we have the European Union flag there, kind of appropriate. And the NATO flag, you probably can't see it. It's actually the way it's got an EU flag, Estonian flag, and an Estonian flag there, all 3 of them. Obviously, the important part of the NATO treaty is Article 5 as far as Estonia is concerned, and that security umbrella, basically the US security umbrella for this country. If Russia were to dare to try to attack it, by sunnies you meant the sunglasses, yeah. Definitely, I don't know if this is the weather for them, but it's a little bit bright when the little bit of light we have reflects off the snow here. So yeah, I think unless there's a last comment that someone has or anything particularly clever someone wants to say there, if you have a question right now. Otherwise, I can feel the cold. These are Ray-Bans, I'm pretty sure. I'm not actually sure, actually. No, they're not Ray-Bans. I think what's written, is it Armani or something on my shades? I can't remember which ones. I lose my shades so much. Carrera, okay. Carrera. So, my friend went in. Yeah, go get coffee, says Wayne. Thanks, Wayne. I will go right now to the cafe and do that. All right, I'm going to bid you a bye-bye from Narva here on the river Narva with Ivangorod, Russia, the Empire of Moscow over there, Eastern Europe, and that standard of life, that lifestyle. And obviously here we have Narva, Estonia, European Union, Schengen area, NATO, and its standard of living and lifestyle. So, ciao ciao, and next time I will presumably not be doing the live stream outside, but didn't want to do it inside when obviously I had this iconic spot that I could show you on my channel. And catch you in the next one. We'll have videos coming pretty soon. Actually should have a summer vlog, looking very warm, from Chisinau, Moldova. Editor is working on that. And another video actually about the weather, which is quite apt way to finish this one. So I hope that you are warmer than I am on this January afternoon. And ciao ciao. See you in the next video. Bye bye.